Hi, this is John Fallows, V6EY, with a series of experiments on listening to shortwave foreign language using modern translator applications that you can get for your iPhone or Android telephone. So there's two things I know for sure. Number one is that there are fewer English language broadcasts available to listen to on shortwave, and since I only speak English, that can present from time to time a problem. So number two thing I know for sure is that over the last 5 years, translation applications have really been spreading and becoming more widely used, and the languages available for translation are becoming more and more available. So I figured, okay, so let's try some experiments and see if I can get a universal translator of sorts working for foreign language shortwave broadcasts. My objective then is to evaluate off-the-shelf tools for real-time or near real-time translation of foreign languages into English, and I put together 6 demonstrations. Each of them is around 2 minutes long, and they are live captures of an application translating Korean, Chinese, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, and Arabic into English. And the translation is both to voice and also to text on the screen. So how did I do all this? Well, it's actually quite simple, but it takes a bit of effort to set things up. So the setup I'm going to use today is my Anand 7000 receiver, and I'm targeting strong signals in the 31, 25, and 22 meter bands. And in most cases, I'm trying to get at least 30 or 40 dB of signal to noise ratio so that the quality of the audio being provided is free of interference and free of noise and gives the application a good chance to work. The second thing is using a virtual audio cable to transfer the audio from the receiver to the microphone input. Now there's various ways you can do this. You can use patch cables externally to your computer and plug them into your phone. That requires, though, being careful about the levels and maybe adding some attenuation and DC blocking. Using a virtual audio cable gets around all those problems completely, and you can do everything on the computer. So I wanted to run native Android emulator to do this without using my phone. I wanted to do it all on the computer. So I installed the BlueStacks 5 Android emulator on Windows 10. And this is a piece of software that basically lets you run Android apps on your Windows 10 PC. And actually, there's a number of them available. They work quite well. Most of them have access to the Play Store. So then you can download either the Google app or the Microsoft app. I'm going to use the Microsoft Translate app today running on Android. And here's a picture of what it looks like. Windows 10 with my SDR. It could be any SDR that provides a virtual audio cable that you can route to your microphone in on the emulator. Then the emulator runs the translator app, and the results are what you will see right now in 6 different languages, each around 2 minutes, of a quality that varies considerably, but it's still a pretty nice experiment.
The issue of real subsidy exclusion was discussed. The White House confirmed on the 22nd. A spokesman for the White House National Security Council (NSC) asked the DOA on the same day whether the two leaders had discussed South Korea's concerns under the U.S. Inflation Reduction Bill IRA, and said the issue was one of the discussions at the summit meeting.
또 바이든 대통령이 이에 대해 한국 측의 우려를 잘 알고 있다면서 미얀 간 계속해서 진지한 협의를 이어나가자고 답했다고 설명했습니다. 앞서 백악관은 관련 회동에 대한 첫 보도자료에서
It said it has requested that the ROK and the United States work closely together to address South Korea's concerns in the process of enforcing the Inflation Tolerance Act. He explained that the former president was well aware of the South Korean side's concerns about this, and that he would like to continue serious consultations with the United States and the United States. Earlier, the White House was concerned about the three species. It's only 4 months. It is a holiday, Yu Park Hyungju.
미국의 한반도 전문가들은 평가했습니다. 특히 약 3년 만에 성사된 한일 정상회담은 양국 관계 개선을 위한 정치적 동력이 될 것이라고 진단했습니다. 자세한 소식입니다.
US experts on the Korean Peninsula have evaluated. In particular, he diagnosed that the ROK Japan summit, which took place in about 3 years, will be a political impetus for improving bilateral relations. More news. There's never been a lack of attention to who he is, and how did tennis rackets come together. As the information is nearing completion, people find it an inspirational story, and another story about a change of fate and a dream come true.
这一次青少年网球巡回赛广州站又拿下了 U14 组男单冠军。因为网球，角落里的少年走出大山，一个新的世界展开在他的面前。因为网球，他的人生轨迹被彻底改变。不仅他的，包括他的家庭、他的同辈以及后来。
A number of trophies were issued for the first time on the Junior Tennis Tour, and Guangzhou won the Yuxic Group Men's Singles Championship, because the teenager in the tennis corner walked out of the world of the mountains, in front of her. Because of tennis, his life tricks were completely changed.
后者预示了他的未来。两个符号的同框，似乎又隐藏着这样的意蕴。认清去处，但仍不忘来处。也许不同的人有不同的解码，但这种不被切断的乡土联系和文化根脉，带给城镇化浪潮中的人们十足的慰藉和感动。
Too artistic, the situation of his future two symbols seems to hide such a will to go with the heart, but still not to forget the difficulties. Perhaps different people have different decoding, but this uncut interconnection and cultural circumference and head to Sichuan by anyone for such a declined China will be able to stand for 2 weeks. He sighed heavily, as if the groom was cold. Everything that happened yesterday was like a nightmare.
Осталось лишь 20-30 бойцов. Но им удалось оторваться от преследователей, поэтому можно было немного перевести.
Put only 20-30 fighters, but he managed to break away from his pursuers, so you could translate a little.
Казалось, что это были настоящие врата ада. А перед ними открывались густые заросли тростника.
It seemed that these were the real gates of hell, and in front of them there were dense thickets of reeds.
Как только они зашли в заросли, кто-то закричал: «Эй, Гуань-Юй, тебя конец!» В тот же момент послышался характерный свист. Сквозь тростниковые заросли прямо в него летела стрела. Он дернул за рукоятку секиры и разрубил стрелу надвое. После этого в их сторону полетели мириады стрел.
As soon as they entered the thickets, someone met, advertises you, understands the same moment, listen to the tavern street, through the reed thickets right in captivity whole arrows. He pulled the handle of the axe and cut it with the snow guards. After that, the big side, always in our production company, Juanito Garments, and here he is in the vote in the NBA. And today we talk with One Day and Romero, great fighters of last tuners, here in Sports with the Greats. Presents. About the history of the United States of America.
La primera república inglesa se disolvió cuando Oliver Cromwell, militar y jefe político inglés, dirigió sus ejércitos sobre Inglaterra, Escocia e Irlanda. Declaró a los tres países como el protectorado. Gobernó con poderes absolutos desde 1653 hasta 1659.
If the first English Republic was dissolved, when Oliver Cromwell was an English politician, we led the army over England, Scotland and Ireland, he declared the three countries. As the Protectorate ruled with absolute powers from 1653, attitudes were conspicuous by their absence.
Trataron de promover reformas republicanas radicales para preservar los logros políticos posteriores a las guerras civiles británicas.
Durante su gobierno, Cromwell alcanzó grandes logros. Entre ellos, en 1654, triunfó en una guerra con España en las Indias Occidentales y capturó Jamaica. Cromwell también promovió el reasentamiento.
Four radical Republican reforms to preserve the political gains after the mechanical civil wars during his government, promoted achieved great achievements, among them at least with 154. Triumph in a war with Spain in the West Indies, and captured Jamaica.
Como el israelismo británico reconocía a los británicos como una de las 10 tribus perdidas de Israel.
Dicho concepto o doctrina reconocía al pueblo británico como los nuevos israelitas. La amplitud de criterio religioso de Cromwell marcó una era de tolerancia religiosa y libertad de conciencia, frase usada para describir
How the British recognized the British as one of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. This concept or doctrine recognized the British people as the new Israelites. Cromwell's breadth of religious judgment marked an era of religious tolerance and freedom, conscience. During the demonstrators, they carried banners and posters against the hunger situation of 35,000,000 Brazilians and the constitutional amendment that established the ceiling for public spending in the country. On the other hand, Juliana Cesar also gives you partnerships with members and senators in favor of measures that make the implementation of the 2030 agenda more important.
O projeto de lei citado por Juliana César é analisado de forma conclusiva nas comissões de Meio Ambiente e de Constituição e Justiça da Câmara, em princípio, sem necessidade de votação no plenário da Casa. Na Câmara, a Comissão de Direitos Humanos também conta com um observatório parlamentar de avaliação da situação dos direitos humanos no país, com base em recomendações das Nações Unidas para o tema, incluindo o acompanhamento do cumprimento das metas e indicadores dos Objetivos do Desenvolvimento Sustentável. Muitas das metas e ações previstas na Agenda 2030 surgiram na Rio 92, a Conferência da ONU sobre Meio Ambiente e o Desenvolvimento.
But in principle, no need for a vote in the House plenary. In the House, the Human Rights Committee also has a parliamentary observatory for assessing the human rights situation in the country, based on more United Nations recommendations on the subject, including monitoring the achievement of goals and indicators of Sustainable Development Goals. Many of the goals and actions foreseen in Agenda 2000
Votos brancos e nulos não têm influência no resultado eleitoral. E mesmo que mais de 50% dos eleitores decidam votar branco ou nulo, a eleição continua valendo. A repórter Lara Rage explica os detalhes.
No Brasil, o voto é obrigatório. No entanto, o eleitor é livre para não escolher candidato algum. O cidadão é obrigado a comparecer às urnas, mas pode optar por votar em branco ou anular o voto.
I concluded null has no influence on the election result, and even if more than 50% of voters decide to vote white or null, the election continues to be valid. The reporter, their enraged, written details are Brazil back is mandatory. However, the voter is free not to choose any candidate. The citizen is obliged. The fragile supply has returned by introducing the new trees to respect, dialogue and solidarity, and by investing hopefully on the resources available in the quality of education in the two directions of Bisca, where the message that Pope Francis has wreaked about my divorce from the east of the world education 2022.
يعيشون في أوضاع هشة. المبدأ الثالث هو معرفة الخليقة التي تلهمنا لكي نعتني ببيتنا المشترك. وأخيرا وليس آخرا مبدأ معرفة الله الذي يؤكد الميل الطبيعي للإنسان نحو اللامتناهي ويوسع أفقنا وقدرتنا على اكتشاف أسرار الحياة العظيمة.
Our ancient work lives in situations here in the East Principle. Happiness is the knowledge of creation that inspires us to you that it is the second of our common home, and last but not least the principle of knowledge of another that has existed among the natural to emotion towards the soft blame and expands our bishop, and that in our ability to discover the great mysteries of life.
جعل الشخص البشري بقيمته وسلامته محور كل جهد تربوي رسمي وغير رسمي، الإصغاء إلى أصوات الأطفال والشباب الذين ننقل إليهم القيم والمعرفة لكي نبني معا مستقبلا يسوده العدل والسلام والحياة الكريمة لكل شخص. تشجيع المشاركة الكاملة.
Instauring 7 specific tracks first means the person projects, with their value and safety axes, already Islamic educational and others. But many love of opinion, voices, children and young people, who we transmit have values and knowledge in order to end with the future. Is it dominated by justice, speech and a dignified life?
في سياق إيكولوجية متكاملة الحفاظ على بيتنا المشترك وتعزيزه وحمايته من استغلال موارده وفقا لمبادئ التضامن والاقتصاد الدائري. الهدف النهائي جعل التعليم متكاملا والتغلب على الانقسامات بين جوانبه المعرفية والعاطفية والأخلاقية. تابع الكاردينال بارولين يقول:
The human crisis and no human agreement means in the context of Kalanji not to work on the preservation of its common home and to promote it, and a monster with me other than the exploitation of resources in accordance with the principles of solidarity and circular division. The ultimate goal, if on education, is integrated and overcome divisions between its cognitive.
The quality varied. I think obviously I've got to learn more about how to use these apps and play around with them, and I'll do that and report back. But it was a pretty good experiment, and in some cases a very good translation, in others just enough to understand what they were talking about, which I sure couldn't do because I don't speak any of those languages. So the translator did some good, and it was a worthwhile experiment. I hope you'll try stuff like this, and please let me know how it works out for you. This is John, V6EY, making it up.